Sara Elizabeth Timmins has been producing films for over a decade. In 2008, she established Life Out Loud Films to make inspiring features with strong female characters, movies that also make a positive community impact. Timmins most recently produced the feature Wish You Well, based on the novel by New York Times bestselling author David Baldacci. Before that, she produced Lake Effects, starring Jane Seymour and Jeff Fahey, filmed at Smith Mountain Lake. It is currently airing on the Hallmark Channel. Timmins graduated from Xavier University and began her producing career in Cincinnati. She has also worked as a motivational speaker professionally for 10 years and is a prime example of the power of positive thinking. Sara Elizabeth Timmins, welcome to the interview.
Thank you for having me.
When did you decide you wanted to be a filmmaker? Was this something that happened when you were a kid? I mean, were you watching a TV movie or something and decided this is what I want to do?
Actually not. I wish I had that story. I grew up wanting to be a ballerina at my young age, and then fell in love with acting, so kind of abandoned ballet and moved into acting. And I guess it was right out of college, it was really, I always had an organizational communications background as well, and it was out of college that I was given an opportunity. And honestly, I took the opportunity to kind of produce a little bit to get a little bit closer to the acting side in film, and fell in love with it. So it wasn't until after college that I had kind of the first bug, and I remember watching, it was actually Lord of the Rings for the first time in the theater, and seeing the opening scene and looking at that and kind of being in awe, going, I want to make people feel that sense of awe.
Right.
So.
Huh. Did you study acting or film in college at Xavier?
Oh, yeah. My mother would tell you I was born acting, and I haven't stopped since. So, but I mean, I was the one that would get all the cousins together to put together a play or a show during all of the holidays or whenever the cousins would be gathered. So my dad says from a very young age I had that director, producer inclination for sure.
And in one of the projects you worked on early on as a producer, you actually produced a ballet for film based on a children's book, Rosabella?
Yes, yes. Rosabella was a nonprofit organization in Santa Barbara, and we actually converted the book. They had turned the book into a ballet. We shot it, and it was actually a really nice experience because they let me warm up with the dancers, and so I can kind of get back to my ballet roots. And I always
get back on your toes.
Get back. I actually did, but the next day it was it was not a pretty picture. But I think, you know, what I really learned about that experience was I only want to work on things I'm passionate about. You know, to work on ballet, which was a passion of mine as a child, was just such an amazing experience. And I think kind of from that point on, I realized there's no point in working on things that you don't really care about.
You know, a lot of people don't get to do that, follow their passion.
And I wish more would, because really it's not that difficult if you just put your mind to it. And everyone's passion's different. Some are probably easier and more practical to get to the end point than others. But
you've been a motivational speaker as well.
Right.
What do you, when you address people, groups of people, is that what you focus on, following your passion?
These days, yes. I think when I was doing it professionally for 10 years, I actually worked for an organization called Making It Count. So we spoke with high school and college students and focused on making decisions now that will affect your future, help you build your portfolio or your network, or get good grades now, because you know that will open up more doors in the future. So it was really focused on students making choices to improve their success once they get into the real world. So it was very academic based, but you could always kind of bring some of yourself into every presentation. But now when I do talk on my own outside of the organization, I think that my biggest things I would speak about are really living every day to the fullest, you know, giving 100%, not having regrets. And absolutely, I've taught a couple workshops on finding your passion, because if you can find what you're passionate about and what you're good at, and combine those two things, there's probably a job out there. And I think that a lot of young people only think that there are, you know, the dozen jobs that they're used to hearing everyone does, the nurse, the doctor, the accountant. So I think that our youth kind of needs to expand and really realize that, you know, if you like math and you love film, you know, there are accountants that work on film, or there's ways to get involved in TV and the accounting side. So I think there's definitely a way to marry what you're good at and what you're passionate at, so that, you know, every day you're excited to go to work, and then it doesn't feel like work.
There you go. That's like a good credo. You know, when I first met you, we did a radio interview, and you were talking about this film Lake Effects, which was this idea you had. You used to come home to visit your parents at Smith Mountain Lake, an idea for a movie about life around the lake and some of the characters there. And you had to raise, I think, a couple $1 million or something. And this was your dream. Well, a couple of years later, there's Jane Seymour starring, Jeff Fahey and others, and you've put this film together. Just talk about that process. I mean, was it just, did a lot of it start with you really believing, being able to sell investors that this is something that could be done?
I think it started first with they really had to just believe in myself. And honestly, I knew where I wanted to go and what I thought the final product wanted to be, but I really didn't know how I was going to get there. I just knew I wasn't going to give up and that failure was not an option. So the process itself, it was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And it did start with getting others to believe in me enough to write a check, because without the money there would be no film. But I think it really started with, I had to believe in myself and show that I was capable. And then, yeah, it was a financial, it was the first hurdle. And then, of course, you know, hoping that the cast and people that could really bring some notoriety and some marketability to the film and great performances would also believe in this script. So I can remember every corner that I turned going, oh my goodness, it worked out. Oh, you know, it was just, it was an amazing experience and a real affirmation to, you know, what you can do if you put your mind to it. Not knowing, you know, you could start at A, know you're going to get to Z, and I had a path set, but I sure didn't follow that path. You know, it took a lot of detours and dead ends along the way, but we got there, so it's definitely fulfilling.
Were you the executive producer for Lake Effect?
Technically produced by producer, yeah.
Okay. Were you involved with getting Jane Seymour to come on board, or was that a casting company? Or?
I mean, I worked with casting director Erica Arvold, who is out of Charlottesville, who worked on Wish You Well as well. And together, Eric and I, you know, and the director Mike McKay came up with the list, and then, you know, we definitely both were involved in talking to the agent and making sure she read the script. But definitely couldn't have done it without Erica. But we both worked on it together. One
of the things you said you like to do is you like to produce films with, #1, strong roles for females, and also to make a positive impact on the communities that where you do the filming. Lake Effect's filmed in around the Smith Mountain Lake area for the most part, and you just filmed Wish You Well, based on a David Baldacci film, a novel in Giles County. Talk about why it's important to have strong female roles and why you want to make a positive impact on these communities.
Well, I think for females, after being out in Los Angeles for 7 years, and even, you know, before going out to LA, as an actress myself, the scripts that I would see and my agent would give me and the auditions I would go out on, I started to notice that a lot of the female roles were the victim, or they were always weak, or they were became objects. And in Hollywood, the true amazing performances from some of the actresses that are out there now really come when they're able to sink their teeth into a role, you know, that's just as complex as the roles that men have had. And I think that for a very long time, many scripts just were not written to give females that opportunity. So as an actress myself,
they sort of get slotted.
Yeah, I mean, the woman was never portrayed as strong and able to really take control and show emotion and depth. So that was really important to me when I started to produce, is to provide that opportunity to actresses to really be able to showcase what they do. And also just from my personal, you know, beliefs, I think that it's an important thing that we show young women in society that the positive of women in film, because they're looking to it as kind of a mentor. Everyone looks up to media, so we need to portray women in a positive light. And then with giving back, it's part of my my personal, you know, mission and life purpose that I've always wanted to do that. I think I finally found an opportunity to kind of marry the motivational speaking aspect and the making a difference in people's lives into the film. And for me, it makes it more fulfilling to be able to not just make a film, especially if it's the films in our genre, which is our films that are making a difference. And they're supposed to be inspirational films. Well, how do you make a film in a very non-inspiring way that takes advantage of people or is just all about the final product or the money? How do you make a film like that and then also proclaim a positive message? So I think you have to practice what you preach. So for me, it was important that the filmmaking process also is able to inspire people and teach people and educate and, you know, have that same message that the final film does as well. So
you've been able to get a lot of locals involved, either as an investor or extras or whatever. I know Bart Wilner was on the program, and Bart's become a friend of you also, but he's been an investor and a producer. And Bart told me he's in the jury box in the Wish You Well.
He is. He is. A number of our investors and supporters are all in the jury. It was kind of a way for us to be able to kind of give them a little perk for being so supportive. But you know, Bart's been amazing. Everybody who has stepped forward, whether it was for money or even support or extras, they've all been amazing. And really, the only reason that we could make the films in the way that we did here. So I'm forever grateful to all of those people.
Talk about Wish You Well, David Baldacci, who I actually got to introduce at a dinner a couple years ago to hang out with him before. Seems like a real nice guy. He's a part-time Lake resident. He's got a house out there, I believe. Wish You Well is another one of his best-selling novels. And talk about that, how that came together. That's a film you just shot, and I guess you're looking for a distributor now?
Right, we're in the sales process.
Okay.
So, and things are going well. The final product is just amazing. We're all really proud of it, and I think that the cast and the crew did an absolutely amazing job of bringing the beautiful words that David already had in his novel to life. So David and Karen and I are all really proud of the final product and the performances by Ellen Burstyn and Josh Lucas and Mackenzie Foy and several others. But that started, David was a supporter of Lake Effects, and I think, you know, he kind of jokes and says that he was auditioning me from the sidelines and kind of checking it out to see, you know, what my philosophy was and how I put things together and what happened with Lake Effects. And then we met a little bit before we started Wish You Well and kind of talked and realized we were on the same page and had a lot of the same philosophies and ideas and how we wanted to make film and what our vision was. And that's when we decided to partner up and make Wish You Well, which we shot last fall, so almost a year ago.
He didn't write the screenplay or anything, did he?
He did.
He did write the screenplay.
He did, and he did. You know, it's a difficult job to translate a novel into a screenplay.
Because you have to leave a lot of it out, for one thing.
You do, and essentially you're married to every word that you put into that novel, and to have producers sitting there saying, you know, the wild bear and the panther is going to be really difficult to do on a low budget. You know,
I don't think Sara Elizabeth wants to put a bear suit on, so.
Yeah, no. So he was an absolute joy to work with, very amazing at translating. I mean, when he came to me, he already had the screenplay. And then our team also worked to change that screenplay and adapted it even a little bit more. But he did a great job and really has the talent to be able to do both, which is unusual.
You hoping for a theatrical release for Wish You Well?
That's our goal, and we shot it for that reason.
Okay. And Ellen Burstyn, from people remember from The Exorcist many years ago, you know, with her daughter Linda Blair's head turning. How is it to work with her? And you don't really see a whole lot of roles for women of that age.
Right.
Meaty roles.
Well, and such, again, the strong female role that really holds the family together and really is a catalyst for Mackenzie Foy's character, Lou, to have her coming of age moment. Ellen she's a legend, essentially, and she is just so classy and such a kind soul, and her performance is, you know, I'll remember one time watching the Monitor, and after she gave a performance and everyone was just silent, and someone said, and that's why she won the Academy Award.
Right. She didn't do the diva thing, huh?
No. No one did. We had an amazing cast. They were all just a joy to work with, and really lovely.
What do you tell people about your journey to becoming a filmmaker? I mean, you know, you set your goal, and when you talk to people now about it, is it hard to believe where you're at this point, because you're still very young?
I guess I really don't think about necessarily where I'm at. I'm, you know, because you're always thinking about the future and upcoming projects. I think, you know, the power of believing in yourself, I think that the power of our mind and faith is just so much greater than most people really give it. And if you go into something believing that failure is not an option, and like I said, you set your eye on that final goal, and you know, just because I don't take the route that I mapped out for myself doesn't mean that my personal GPS isn't capable of rerouting and detouring.
Personal GPS, I like that.
To get there, and I think that that's really, especially for young people, but even someone who's 50 or 60 and says, you know what, I never really followed my passion. I don't think it's ever too late to follow it, because the joy that comes every single day to do what you love to do and be living the life that you've chosen to live, not one that you feel that you've gotten stuck in, is just the most fulfilling, you know, thing. So
10 seconds. Other projects on the board or in the back of your head?
There are. There's two. We're actually full speed ahead on two projects that we hope to shoot in Virginia.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it there. Sara Elizabeth Timmins, always great to see you again.
Thank you.
This is The Interview. I'm Gene Marrano. We'll be right back.